James E. Schaff. I was born in Mandan, North Dakota in 1932. I always used to joke that I was born at the home. And then when my father saw me and my mother went to the hospital. But I never did go to the hospital. Oh, they were in a real dither about what to do because there wasn't anybody. My father was one of 14, but there were no James anywhere. And so I don't know how they came up with James. Oh yeah, we were very poor. We lived about 3 blocks from my grandfather, who was the biggest bootlegger in North Dakota. And we had great big patches of potatoes that we had to hoe. I don't remember much else except they must have done a lot of haying because we had hay stacks up there. And they had a lot of chickens. A lot of times when we'd go up to see my grandparents, we'd be let in and then we'd have to go to a back room or upstairs because they were having people in for drinks. You know, very confidential sort of thing.
Yes, yes.
I can remember they served sunflower seeds, and which we grew ourselves and salted ourselves. But anyhow, they'd let the people just throw them on the floor. But it was some of the best sweeping compounds you could get.
Okay.
Because, you know, they had a little moisture to them, so they'd collect all the dust and all that. But we went up there to work an awful lot.
So your father was a farmer then?
Oh, my father was a railroad, but his father was a farmer, the big bootlegger.
I see.
I didn't know he was the biggest bootlegger in North Dakota till I came to Missoula, and some guy says, "Oh yeah," he says, "I remember your grandfather," and he mentioned the bootlegging, and he said, and one time he whipped my dad because my dad drove a team of horses for some other bootlegger up into Canada and back down with a big load of whiskey. And so anyhow, that's how I learned that he was, not because but I did remember, you know, all the times we went up there that there was a big opening in the front door that he could peek out and then cover up if he wanted to see who you were, to see if you could come in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have 2 sons and a daughter who all went through Loyola.
Ah.
And they also went through Carroll. One is now a doctor. One only makes $10,000 a day. And the other one owns Garden City Plumbing here.
Did you have any brothers or sisters? Or were you
I had 2 brothers.
2 brothers?
Then my father died when I was going to be a freshman in high school. And so my mother remarried when I graduated from high school. And so then we had what we called a stepdad, but not formally because I was already out of high school. My little brother was in the 6th grade.
Okay.
So he went with them and they moved to Butte when they got married. Well, it was in 1941, just about the time the war broke out, the Second World War, and of course I spoke German. Like on the school grounds, I had to speak English because the nuns But other than that, all the neighborhood was German speaking. Well, my dad wouldn't let me talk any more German because they thought we were spies from Germany,
Right.
getting there in 41, right as the war broke out. So I lost all my German. Catholic schools.
Catholic? Were you considered a good student?
I would say I wasn't, but my son, who went to Loyola, got his first B in his junior year of college. And it was in where you talk a lot, you know, and learn public speaking. And he was very shy, so he didn't, that's when he got his first B.
What was your favorite subject in school?
What's that?
Sorry. What was your favorite subject in school?
Girls.
Growing up, did you have any heroes or role models that you looked up to?
No, not really.
Did your family ever go on vacations?
I had my second car ride once in my life, and then I was the first one to own an automobile in my family. My brother didn't choose to do it, and I did it in my first year of college. That was the first car owned.
As a
I
child?
had no idea. As a matter of fact, I was an electronics technician when I came to Missoula. I was chief engineer for a radio station here for 2 weeks while the chief engineer went on vacation. But I was qualified because of the things I'd taken in the radar section that I graduated and so on. But my electronics career was very short because just as I got done with electronics school and then became a teacher for a year, I taught the numerical, like solving puzzles and stuff like that. X plus Y equals Z, so to speak. And I worked here for Montana Electronics. Then my uncle was a plumber here, and that's the reason I came here, for somebody to visit. And his boss asked me what I was making. I was making $1.25 an hour as a chief engineer for a railroad, for an electronics radio station. And he said, I'll give you $1.25 an hour and give you a raise every 6 months if you'll come plumbing. So I did, and at age 35, I finally decided that really was what I wanted to do, was plumbing. And I'd done it, and I loved it all my life.
That's awesome. So, did you go to a college or university to study then?
I went to a junior college in Miles City, Montana, but then I joined the service, and I joined the Navy at the beginning of the second year of college. But then again, I still didn't have no direction. I didn't know where I was going or what I wanted to do.
Okay. So when you joined the service, did you work as a mechanic on the?
No, I actually was an electrician's mate. As we referred to it, as I was a bulb changer, you know. Oh, we learned to wire motors and stuff like that. And I spent most of my time in the service checking the electricity circuits. In other words, they had a meter you'd put in an outlet and run, as they call a megger on it, and determine whether there was any shorts in the line or how good the electricity was, stuff like that.
Did you ever get deployed overseas?
I was in the Korean War almost all the time I was in the Navy. We first went to Hawaii and then right to Korea. Actually, we went to Japan, Yokosuka, Japan, that we operated out of. We'd go over for 30 days, come back, go over for 30 days, and come back. And while we were over there, our ship did get hit a couple times. And one of the most outstanding things I saw was we had a helicopter on the back of our heavy cruiser. And this plane came, they had the planes who were hit try to get as close to us as possible because our helicopter would take off and rescue them. So I was able to see a plane hit the water, skip 3 times, and then just that quick the front end went down. But just then our helicopter was there and the guy grabbed the rope. So we saved the pilot and brought him aboard ship. He said, they'll give me a new plane tomorrow. Then he passed out, never did say another word. So we were kind of all on deck to receive him, as you might say, and cheer him on. Most of the time, Korea was just we had a lot of guns on board, heavy guns, 8-inch. As you can imagine, that's about like that.
Yeah.
The opening, and we would fire constantly. Even though a ship rocks and bobs and all that, once somebody gets us on a target, we can close a mile of a 2-foot trench. Just because once we're on it, we can just do whatever they want us to do. Sometimes in the night, you'd hear like this, one guy shot from this side, and you could see the little bit of a flash and the noise, of course. Then all of a sudden this outfit would see, they think where that came from, and they'd shoot through 2 times, and then 4, and then 8, and you'd get up to about 20 times from each side, and then quiet. Then 20 minutes later, same thing, one side shot. I talked to some kids that I graduated from high school that was over there later, and they said, listen, I don't know if I ever killed anybody. I just aimed in the direction hoping to scare them away. So, anyhow.
Yeah. Was it difficult to get to sleep when those cannon fires were going on?
Well, you know, most of the time when you're shooting, you're in what they call general quarters. So you did different jobs. One of mine was I was an electrical man, so I was in charge of the generators down in the steam room. And I would switch the generators off ever so often so that, you know, we wouldn't run one too long. So that's where I sat in general quarters.
Okay.
One time I was there with my back to the wall, and one of the bullets that hit us made a racket on my back, and I called up and said, hey, what was that? And they said, well, we just took a shell on your side. Oh, well, my side was 8 inches of steel. That's what there was down in the engine room, so it wasn't, you know, a soft touch for anybody.
I don't imagine it was.
But we had a lot of activities on that ship. Like, for instance, they would always say, your boxing, Joe, and Frank's boxing, such and such. So you had a lot of that going on all the time. But not when we were in general quarters. Just like sometimes when we went to Yokosuka, we would get to go to town for, say, all day, but not overnight. Nobody got to stay because they had lost quite a few sailors to people who were assassinating us from there. But
all right. How long did you serve?
I only served 20 months. I would have been in there for more, but our ship came to the United States, and they were shipping back out to go to Korea, and if they took me along, then 3 months later, they'd have to send me back. So they figured just to cancel me out so that I wouldn't be. A girl by the name of Marilyn Shriver, who died of cancer at 49. She was a nurse, but of course after our first son was born, she quit nursing. She graduated from St. Pat's, one of the last St. Pat's School of Nursing classes they had. She was in charge of the recovery room, and she was the only one in the recovery room, but she had a helper, a nurse helper, not another nurse. But anyhow, and her name was Maggie, and she was tough as nails, but she was the only one in there. Today, there's like 32 people in that same room, getting people from emergency operations and whatnot.
Where'd you meet her?
We were fishing in Lake Marianne, and she was there with her parents. And of course, we were close to the same age, so we did things together just because we were all in the same. Lake Marianne has about 2 big places you would go and rent a room. And we had a cabin that we built on Lake Marianne. Mind you, nobody owned the ground. So when you built the building, you knew the ground was going to belong to the railroad. Oh, we went fishing and snowmobiling, and I was very active with my kids. My one son was the MVP at his senior year of basketball. And the other one was the one that got straight A's. He was always the manager, but he won awards from Bruce Walworth because he was the best manager he ever had. Everything was always in line and on time and everything in its place, you know. So he wasn't just a water boy to that. I plumbed Viola High School gym. I also built 2 buildings of it. I mean,
push down, Barbara, for your appointment, or are you okay? So do you want to push down, or you?
but I didn't charge him 1 dime for that plumbing. Probably cost me around $40,000. But they just, when it come time to have the award ceremony, they invited almost all the big donors. Well, I was one of the bigger donors, but I didn't get invited. It was just an oversight, no big deal. I wasn't looking for my thanks there. I was looking up to God for appreciation for what I did.
That's cool. What was the best part about being a parent?
To having kids that love you. I was very, very fortunate there.
Are you a grandparent?
Yeah, I have, the daughter has 4 kids who have 3 kids. And my son has one son has 3 kids. And they've had now 2 kids. And then my other son is gay. He's a doctor in San Francisco. And I couldn't love him more.
That's wonderful to hear.
Being friendly. I sing a lot. Like, my next thing is to go in 5 minutes to choir practice.
Ah.
But I'm loud, that's why they like me in choir. You know, if somebody's loud, then the other guy doesn't mind singing because he's not being noticed. He can hide under your loudness, you know. I don't know, I won the jitterbug contest in high school. I won the tennis tournament in high school. But the guy who could beat me was off on vacation with his folks. So I never claimed that as such a great big feat. But it's still your claim to fame, you know. At 45, I won a jitterbug contest at the Elks here in Missoula. So I love to dance. I was such a poor kid you wouldn't believe. My dad dying when I'm going to be a freshman. And I just was always on the poor side of the world. Having a lot of fun and being part of your kids' life. I mean, I was athletic director of the tennis team because I had a car that would haul 11 kids and I could get off work. So Bruce Walwork had me as his assistant coach. Bruce Walwork was a wonderful person for Loyola. He did so much for it. He actually was kind of into drugs a little bit, but he was a very good person in his heart.
All right, so one last question. If you could give any advice to my generation, what would that be?
You can always make something if you first try to do something with your financial life. In other words, I bought houses, fixed them up, painted them. At one time I owned 14 houses. When I say that, I bought almost all of them with nothing down. But I kept my eye and ears open to anything that happened, and I was always interested, so the people who stole real estate would call me with just about anything. One time I bought a house on 14th Street for $19,000. But to tell you how bad the house was, there was a big hole in the roof. I mean, that a basketball could go through without touching. But the thing was, it was right above the tub. So all the water that came in, and it was owned by a blind man who died, and they couldn't find any of the relatives, but that's why I got it so cheap. The real estate agent says, I'll just let you buy it from the family. But I fixed it up and later sold it for $140,000. But I mean, I put a lot into it too. Had to have a new roof. Had to have a lot of rafters. I'd say if you just get with it and start working your butts off. And it's fun to have fun, you know, and we did. My kids are still with me when I was 15 and 16 years old. That's a pretty good mark for a man, because most kids after they're 14, they don't want to do with the parents, they want to do with the other kids. But I kept them interested in fishing, hunting. I didn't do very good at hunting because they weren't really much hunters. They were more into peace. But I'd say if you just keep working and working and forget all the like gambling and drinking and stuff like that. I did my share of drinking, but not until later in life, when No, I guess I was doing quite a bit of it when my kids were in high school too. Other than that, our most important thing was to go out and have fun. I owned a place on Holter Lake that I bought for $39,000 and built a house on it and sold it for $180,000. But I probably had $70,000 in it. But today that piece is for sale for $800,000.